Hello and welcome to the 2026 HIPAA Policies and Procedures Annual Training. Here's an overview of what's going to be covered in this training. So HIPAA was passed to ensure that individuals' health information is properly protected while allowing the flow of health information needed to provide and promote high-quality health care. It's broken down into these sections. The privacy rule, which includes protected health information, or PHI. This is identifiable health information. And the security rule. Breach notification requires HIPAA-covered entities and their business associates to provide notification if there is a breach of protected health information. The HITECH Act was an update to HIPAA that explicitly deals with penalties for HIPAA violations. Each organization needs a designated officer, and the privacy and security officer going forward from May 2026 is Emily West. So a covered entity is a healthcare provider, a health plan, or a healthcare care clearinghouse. We are obviously under the category of healthcare provider. And a business associate is a service provider that supplies services to a covered entity. So they may have access to the PHI that the covered entity has access to. Examples are legal, accounting, data management. And the Omnibus Rule defined the role and amended the concept of business associate agreements. So there has to be a business associate agreement in place, and the HIPAA is covered under both the business associate and the covered entity. Here's the list of current self-spaced business associates for different parts of the operation. Next up, privacy. Internal information sharing is a big one at a group private practice as we get a level of complexity around PHI. The policy is described in detail in this section of our disclosure statements, and I'm just copying that information here. So this is information that every client receives. That your therapist may consult self-spaced colleagues about work with specific clients to get feedback and suggestions. This could be formally in a case consult or in in-person conversations. The PHI shared will be kept to the minimum necessary. PHI may be shared more extensively with other personnel, including Rachel, Jessica, Emily West, Stacy, Alyssa, a therapist who is filling in for your therapist, or their clinical supervisor if they have one. There's a variety of reasons why this access may occur. Notification and referrals if your therapist is not available. Specific clinical issues that would benefit from consultation. Therapist temporarily filling in for your therapist. Or in the normal process of healthcare operations, including file audits, attendance data gathering, and scheduling and billing logistics. Also a clinical supervisor, if this is applicable. They may have access to the clinical file and other information the therapist shares with them to facilitate the best possible clinical treatment. We use an electronic health record that is operated by Simple Practice, who's one of our business associate that we have an agreement with, and our notice of privacy practices is provided to all of our clients. Additional details are within our disclosure statements. In addition, a release of information can be signed if a client wants to give explicit permission for self-space to provide, receive, or exchange PHI. Could be related to coordination of care, contact with a prescriber, nutritionist, or other healthcare provider, or to an insurance company or as part of disability leave. Any of these situations would We require an ROI to be signed by the client so that we know that the client wants us to release this particular information. The client can revoke an ROI at any time, and it automatically expires after 1 year. Now, there's been an update in Washington State in 2025. This is meant to make the HIPAA disclosure standards more consistent across all medical fields. It actually broadens when we can share information without an ROI, but it doesn't require this disclosure. And so I'll just go through some of what this update includes, and then how SelfSpace is actually going to address it. So required disclosure is when a client requests through an ROI. If a client files a complaint against you, if we receive a valid subpoena, any sort of mandatory reporting, or court order. Now, permitted disclosures means you are allowed to disclose, but you don't have to. This is when you need coordination of care with other providers for the client's safety, for healthcare operations, or to previous providers, custodians, correctional facilities, or certain family members under certain situations. So these all actually allow us to disclose more than we do as a practice. We maintain the same standards as before these changes. So if you were going to coordinate care with other providers, we actually would require a release of information, even though that is beyond the legal standard of care. That also goes for internal communications. If you are seeing an individual and another therapist is seeing a couple at SelfSpace, even though legally we could exchange information, to uphold the highest ethical standards and to make sure our clients feel very secure in what they're sharing with whom, we require an ROI in those situations. And that takes us to our clinical privacy practices. So personnel use our own electronic devices to conduct company business at SelfSpace. So that includes phone calls, emails, and clinical note-taking. Could be in the office or outside of the office. And to maintain privacy and security of client PHI, use the following guidelines. All client electronic communication should be limited to paperwork completion via SimplePractice and HIPAA-compliant email via Google. Use only your assigned SimplePractice account. Don't log in with someone else's credentials or share your login information. If unauthorized disclosure of PHI is known, notify the privacy and security officer. In the office, address clients without saying their name or by their first name only. If scheduling with a client while in person, make sure they can't see your computer screen, or set the SimplePractice calendar view to privacy on, which will only display client initials. Make sure no other PHI is visible on your screen. And lock the computer screen or enable privacy mode when away from your computer, if SimplePractice is open or when clients are present. Now, when doing sessions at home, make sure you are alone or in a private room where no one else can see or hear your clients or the content of your communication with them. If needed, use headphones, noise machines, or similar tools. If you're working on clinical notes or other documentation, take reasonable precautions so they don't see any PHI, and don't verbally disclose any PHI. If you're conducting sessions at a place that's not your home, such as the home of a family member or a rental unit, again, take all the same precautions as you would at home. And if you're working in a public place, use a personal hotspot or a VPN if possible to prevent data interception. With physical paper, any documents should be shredded once they're used. Phone calls should all go through All Call Technologies format, which is our phone system at this time, or whatever phone system we may be using currently. No texting is permitted of any kind. Take precautions to limit the possibility that your phone, laptop, or any other electronic device is stolen that may have access to PHI. If you use the SimplePractice app, require a login with a passcode or biometric access like your Face ID and a passcode on the phone itself. And if you use self-space email from your phone, make sure to have a passcode to unlock the phone itself so that you can prevent that disclosure of PHI in case your phone is lost or stolen. If you're using a computer to conduct sessions, maintain a password-protected lock on all devices. Documents containing PHI should remain in simple practice only. And if you download something to sign or share with the client, delete it immediately from your computer and empty your trash. Security. We've got a risk management policy. And the purpose is to have a framework for identifying, assessing, and mitigating risks related to the handling of PHI. It requires safeguards across these three domains. The administrative ones are to have a security management process, designate a security officer, have policies on the authorization of PHI, and periodic training and evaluation of security measures. Physical safeguards include restrictions to facility access and workstation and device security described in the clinical privacy practices. Technical include aspects across the following four areas. So access control is authorization to PHI. Audit controls are mechanisms to look at activity related to the same thing. Integrity is to make sure that it is not improperly altered or destroyed, and transmission is to guard against unauthorized access transmitted over an electronic network. An annual security risk assessment, or SRA, helps ensure compliance with HIPAA's administrative, physical, and technical safeguards. Also reveals areas where PHI could be at risk. The Privacy and Security Officer completes an annual SRA based on the SRA tool provided by the U.S. government. Breaches, complaints, sanctions, and contingency plans. So the breach notification rule requires covered entities to notify patients when their unsecured PHI is impermissibly used or disclosed or breached in a way that compromises the privacy and security of the PHI. They also must notify the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And if you believe that PHI has been improperly used or disclosed, notify the Privacy and Security Officer to begin the process of assessing the severity of the breach and developing a plan to address it appropriately. Privacy complaints are typically settled through informal meetings, but clients may also register a formal complaint to the Office of Civil Rights and the Department of Health and Human Services. Our HIPAA complaint process is initiated by filing a complaint with the Privacy and Security Officer. They will then log the complaint and investigate within 30 days. If a meeting with the complainant is needed, it'll be scheduled. And after the investigation, the privacy team will discuss the resolution or response plan, and the Privacy and Security Officer will respond to the complainant and make sure that we are avoiding future issues. Sanctions. The privacy team, Rachel and Emily, are responsible for the final determination of sanctions and any necessary remediation. They'll perform the breach assessment and severity determination, and using these following two models. The first model is categories of privacy and security. 1 is accidental, down to 4 being willful and malicious. And the second model is somewhat similar as the multi-factor model. It takes on degree of harm to the client, the number of PHI information that have been improperly disclosed, and the purpose of it. Again, with one being there's no effect and perhaps it was accidental, to malicious and widespread, down at 3. Contingency plan is a required administrative safeguard. Now, nearly all self-space PHIs through business associates, primarily Google and Simple Practice. We access PHI through our personal electronic devices. And so, in the case of an emergency that impacts our physical office, there's very little to no risk of disruptive data loss of PHI. The business associates are responsible for maintaining client PHI, including in case of emergencies, and this is included in our contracts with them. Documentation. All the HIPAA-related materials can be found in the Google Drive folder HIPAA. Some folders may be restricted for security purposes. This documentation includes the policies and procedures document, which has our full policies and procedures, file audits, training attendance, HIPAA process logs, complaint response logs, and any other HIPAA documentation required by law. All personnel are required to complete the HIPAA training once per calendar year, and the training program is reviewed annually by the privacy team. Please fill out the HIPAA training log to confirm you have completed this training. Thank you so much for completing this training. Have a great year and keep doing the good work.